Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out People of Reddit. Story 1. My Father the King of Petty. This is a tad long but here we go. So when I was 16 or 17ish I shared a car with my papa. He worked in maintenance dealing with boilers and fixing things at a local high school and I was going to college. Long story there but also not the point. My papa is an immigrant from Calabria, Italy, and it's pretty much the stereotype you'd imagine. Loud, doesn't take crap from anyone, and an accent that has made small kids cry. He's also petty. My father had to have things on an exact schedule. I woke up at 5 a.m. every day to get him to work by exactly 5:25 every morning and then went off to school myself. One day my papa storms into my room, flicks on the lights and goes, "Pina, get up, we're going to work early today." I look at my clock, y'all, it is 3 a.m. in the morning. I get up like a zombie, but look, I ain't asking questions. We get in the car I always drive. I'm half awake when we get to the front and he tells me to stop. Now this school had a beautiful circle round drive leading into the atrium of the school. Another thing about this school is that every student had to walk through these doors and go through metal detectors. My father proceeds to then roll down the window and pull out a bag of bread and start throwing it on the ground. I'm extra confused, why are we up at 3 a.m. to throw bread on the ground? So I ask, "Papa, what are you even doing?" My father looks at me and grins with this shit-eating face and goes, "Feeding the birds, Pina, we're feeding the birds." Now I'm curious, but I also don't want to know what the hell my dad is doing at the same time because he's a tad crazy and I learned to mind my own business. This goes on for 2 months until one day I pull up tired as crap, and before I can even comprehend what's happening, a man in a ski mask sprints out of the school, unlocks my papa's door through the window and drags him out. Next thing I know, man starts screaming, "Giacomo, is that you? WTF, man, it's been you feeding the pigeons, why would you do this?" Y'all, the man was the janitor. My father weaponized Canadian geese. My father in the calmest voice ever goes, "Janitor, do you remember 2 months ago when you stole my last Coca-Cola and when I asked you to go to the gas station you said no?" Janitor is like, "Yeah." And my papa continues, "And then you said, what are you gonna do about it?" This is what I did. Have fun waking up at 2 a.m. every morning to retrain the geese to shit by the pond. He gets back in the car and says, "Now drop me off." My papa starts explaining that the students were tracking the geese poop all through the school and as the janitor he had to clean it all up every single day. And he was slowly going crazy wondering why the geese were even there to begin with, so he finally figured someone was doing this and decided to stake out the school to find out who was driving him crazy. I learned 2 things that day. 1. My father is the prettiest man I know, and 2. Don't fuck with my papa's Coca-Cola. All names were changed. Story 2. Get me my coffee. I've been working in the film industry for quite some time and have some impressive titles under my belt. I am pretty laid back and try to get along with everyone I work with. I was working on a Tom Hanks movie and had to hire an assistant for my department. I recommended a few trusted names to my boss, but she insisted on hiring this snot-nosed brat who graduated film school. I generally do not like to hire film school grads due to their high egos, delusions of grandeur and poor work ethic. This one took the cake. He refused to take orders, embarrassed our department a few times, and I caught him asleep on set on 2 occasions. I wanted him fired, but my boss had final say. I couldn't rely on him, so I regulated him to coffee duty. He pulled me aside and said his ego couldn't handle getting me coffee and that he graduated top of his class and should be with the director. He eventually pissed off my boss and gave me the honor of letting him go. I said he wasn't ready, not a team player, needs to swallow his pride and not to use me as a reference until he grew up. He fucked with my car on his way out and tried to badmouth me to other industry folks. He attempted to get on other shows but had already got a bad rep. A year or 2 later I accidentally called him. Meant to call someone else with the same name, and he was rude, telling me that he was out of the industry and he was working at a donut shop and that he was happy. I went into the donut shop and waiting for him to serve me. I ordered a coffee and said I thought your ego couldn't handle this. I tipped him a quarter. I normally wouldn't have cared, but he poured some sugary liquid on my car when he quit. Story 3. Giant SUV tried to take an end of the street parking spot I was very obviously waiting for, on my motorcycle, so I decided to make sure to park in a way they couldn't get in next to me, in return leaving a space only a small car or other bikes could get into instead. Here's something that's truly in the most minor level, petty. I ride a motorcycle, which is my only vehicle, and in my area the motorcycle parking is free because the city wants to stop people from buying huge SUVs and trucks and parking them in the city, eating up tons of parking space. Any way they can get about it, they're trying to help solve this asshole giant vehicles clogging up the city problem. There is an unspoken law about this motorcycle parking thing though. If you're gonna use the free moto parking, you park at the very end so you don't disrupt the car's spaces. A motorcycle takes up about 3.5 feet of width on the end cap. Basically you can fit 4-5 bikes in the space of your average suburban attack vehicle. So the considerate thing to do if you are parking your motorcycle, is to park the bike on the very end so that you don't end up taking up an entire space that could be for a car, especially compact cars. Make the car's park base off the bike, and everyone's happy. City is happy, everyone wins. So I get back from a ride where I see someone has replaced what was my motorcycle and a small Kia with their Mustang. No big deal. Happens all the time. I'm going to swing around and look for another spot, but I notice as I'm going up the street that the red car that is in the other end cap spot that I normally park at is currently being started. Sweet, I get my normal parking spot back. So I position my bike to pull into the end cap when the car leaves, but this huge SUV is coming up, so I politely move my bike back and they go past and then swing around through the roundabout and then stop right there in exit of it. I wave go through, I'm just waiting, and the driver points to the spot I am literally about to park into. I point, I'm going there. So the driver just sits there, in the exit of the roundabout. This enormous silver SUV is now just sitting there in the exit of a roundabout blocking traffic as this red car is pulling out. Great, this guy wants to try to take this spot from me that they clearly saw me waiting for. So, fuck it, I pull across the lane slowly and wait, and as the red car goes out, pull my bike in and park it just far away enough from the end cap that the driver can't parallels park their enormous oversized SUV in there. Just enough, but with enough space left that I know a Prius or compact car would get in there just fine. Sir, you saw me right there waiting for the spot, you saw me out of the way to make space for you to travel past unobstructed, and your response? Let's take this spot from this biker now. Nah bro, you can go find another spot. Good luck. It's the big city with constantly occupied parking. You tried to disrupt the unspoken rule that you let the bikes park at the ends so that the cars don't get fucked up when the bikes don't have the end spots. So you can go wander around the neighborhood. Have fun. I get off the bike and SUV drives by slowly with Miss Wife in the passenger seat, making that you see this asshole? Fuck them, and I just wave as they go past. They roll 50 FET down the street to the loading zone section, and sit there with their hazards on. Just in case Mr. Dick UV and wife has a problem, I decided to just hang out next to my bike, just in case someone got a bit curious what keys do to motorcycle paint. Dicking around on my phone, looking at the tires, pull the oil dipstick out and check it. Now I'm a pretty small gal, a BUCK31 on a fat day, but I'm tall and I'm sure in some way or another being all dressed up in biker gear at least makes me somewhat of a deterrent from creating a scene. Wife gets out of the SUV, looks up at me, rolls her eyes and walks away. Finally after 15 minutes they leave, and I went back to move my bike as close as possible to the end cap so something like a typical crossover or something a bit larger than a compact could get into the space. Like I normally do. Trying to take a spot from someone waiting is just douchey, but you make parking worse when you take away the end cap for the motorcycles to keep out of the way of the cars. The motorcycles, the city has enacted a zone ordinance to incentivize parking in these locations because it keeps them out of the way. Story 4. If you make my life hell, I'll try my best to return the favor. Back when I worked in McDonald's as a lobby staff member, we would get rude college kids come into the store, aged around 18 years old. One group were constantly told off for vaping in the store every time they came in. There were also a lot of young children in the store, so I didn't appreciate them vaping THC in a public place. They would vape secretly, in the toilets and at their table. Since we would tell them off for doing it, they would deliberately make mess in order to punish the staff for it. I'm talking piss and water on the toilet floor, whole rolls of toilet paper blocking the toilets, wet floor signs covering shitty nappies that they had taken from the disabled/baby changing toilet into the boys' toilet, wet floor signs upside down in the toilets that were filled with piss/shit and unflushed, deliberately making a mess with sugar, salt, and sauces smeared on the table, sticking tomatoes to windows and pointing at it and laughing at us, flipping the bird, making fun of my overweight colleagues, etc. You get the idea. One time, I was cleaning up their messy table as usual after they had left when I came across a big, heavy, and expensive-looking vape. Ordinarily, I would keep such items in the cupboard in case that person came back. But this one I threw straight in the bin. About an hour later, a panic-stricken boy came in to inquire about his missing vape, whom I recognized as the ringleader of the group. He asked if I had seen it and said that he last had it in the restaurant. I said I hadn't seen it and that because of the mess on the table, I had dragged the bin over and swept everything from the table into it to save time. He was visibly crushed and said that it cost his parents $50 to buy it for him. That he was in trouble for losing it and could I check the bin bags out back for it. I said sure and stood out the back for a few minutes before coming back to say I couldn't find it. Then I made a remark about how he would have seen his vape on the table had it not been covered by burger wrappers. Guess who put all of their rubbish in the bin the next time they came in? Story 5. Parking Encounter. This happened not so long ago. I was waiting for someone to exit a parking spot so I can replace them, but some doofus suddenly sped into the spot front first as I was backing up. I confronted him, but he was really arrogant, even saying I was slow. What I did was I unhooked both his wiper blades and placed it under his car, as I don't want to steal anything, but I also know his dim-wit brain won't look under his car. It's typhoon season in my country, so it is raining all day and night all week. I don't know what happened next, but I wanna believe he just went home thinking he still has his wiper blades and found out it was already gone when he used it outside. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.